Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Purposeful Mindset Podcast. I'm honestly so grateful that you're subscribed to my podcast, and I'm excited to share yet another episode with you. This podcast is all about bringing servant leaders to share their stories and life experiences with you all in the hopes to help more people to find their true purpose and meaning to life. Today I have an incredible guest. I'm so excited to share her wisdom with you all. Her name is Kartina Rosli, and she is a seasoned communication specialist, content writer, digital marketer, and the founder of her own PR and social media agency known as 10 Communications. She holds her experience with more than 20 years of public relations and corporate communications in both public and private organizations in the infocom and education industries. In this episode, Tina shares her wisdom and experience how one is able to gain more confidence in themselves, take more action, and believe in their unique abilities to achieve their dreams. Her resilient mindset has made her a pure servant leader who loves helping add value to the people who enter her life. So without further ado, let's get straight into this episode. Hey Tina, thank you so much for being with me on the Purposeful Mindset Podcast. I am so grateful to have your time, and I can't wait for you to share your story and your journey with my listeners. I want to go straight into this. I'm super excited for you to share your story and your journey with the people that listen to my podcast. And because I know after having a conversation with you, the stuff that you're up to all the way in Singapore is just absolutely amazing. You know, being one of the in the management of marketing for one of the biggest magazines in the whole of Asia is something super inspiring for someone young like me to look up to and learn from. So I would love for you to start with just kind of getting into your story and just share with everyone, like, who's Tina and how's your journey been so far?
Great. Sadiq, really thank you for having me here on the show. Where do I start? Well, I have always been interested in writing. The strange thing was that I wasn't really able to read very well, even till the age of 7. I like to believe that I probably have dyslexia because during those times, back in like 30 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, there wasn't really any diagnosis for whether a child is really slow developer or whether they have some, learning disabilities. But as I grew older, I kind of realized that I had some issues in writing and spelling. The worst was spelling, and I remembered in English classes where we had to do spelling, and the best score I had was a digit 0 over 10. It's like scoring duck eggs, seriously, for spelling for many, many years, I would say, since kindergarten all the way till about primary 3. And it was really hard for me to actually analyze or understood alphabets, at that point of time. And so my mom, who was working with a European family, she used to bring back books. I think they when the kids don't really need the books anymore, they would just hand it over to my mom. And so the first book I remember I read was The Little Match Girl, by Kristen Henderson. And it was so inspiring because it was really sad and inspiring as well, because she had so much hope, about trying to sell what she had. And eventually, despite whatever happened, she passed on, because she was in the cold. And I read word by word with the help of my elder brother. And of course, I learned how to spell. I actually copied every word on that book, wow. THE for the and stuff like that. And it was also a teacher of mine in primary school who actually got us to read a book every single day as part of our reading class. And I always picked out the easiest one, thin pages kind of books, because I wanted to finish it, because there's this, thing of having to complete it and write a summary of the book. It's either you write a summary or you draw the cover of the book. And so I decided, because since I can't draw for that, so I decided, okay, fine, I'll just give a summary of the book. And it started with, this book was about a boy who lived with his father on a hill. That was it. And eventually I started to write 2 lines, 2.5 lines, 3 lines, And when my teacher said, Tina, you're doing pretty well, so keep on reading. And it was then I realized that reading actually helps. And I decided to become a librarian. All my friends were taking part of in basketball or Malay dance, I got myself involved in the library services, and because you get to read free books, right, instead of having to buy one. So I went to the library and became a librarian, and that's where I learned to hide in one corner and started reading. And I started to write. And, as I grew up and, being a teenager, you have a lot of things in your heart. So the only way to express it is to write dear diaries. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
Right. And I also had this inspiration of wanting to become actually a broadcaster, because I was so impressed with how they were so articulate on TV. They look so presentable, so pretty. So I told myself, I'm going to be like them. I want to be a journalist. I want to become a broadcast journalist. And so I told myself, I'm going to work really hard, no matter how difficult it is going to be. And I'm going to become that. So in secondary school, I barely, the thing is, I barely made it to secondary school because of, I had, some difficulty in trying to score good grades for in primary school. But eventually when I went to secondary school, there was a time where I learned how to pick up my momentum. I did a lot of studying on my self-study. I read a lot more books, and again, I became a librarian because I get access to free books.
Yeah.
And then I remember it was in secondary four, when we had the Cambridge exam. So a few months before that, there was one part of this exam where you had to do a summary. So the summary actually gives you 10 points out of the entire paper. And so during the exercises in class, I was never able to summarize. I couldn't understand how to summarize from a passage. And so my English teacher, which was Mrs. Sim, said, Tina, I'm going to guide you. I'm going to make sure you're going to get at least 5 out of 10. You are not going to give me duck eggs for summary. And so she actually helped me. And I eventually, after a few months, I finally found how to, pick up a language and did a summary. Thank God, I did well. I did, in fact, very well for my Cambridge exam, because my English was one of the best subjects in my entire list of subjects. And I went on to do business administration, and I majored in public relations and advertising, because I knew where I wanted to go. And so I had a good time in school, and I earned my diploma in public relations and advertising. And I got a job initially as an admin assistant, because at that point of time, you only have one shot, right? Because there were a lot of people trying to get their choice of jobs. And so when I applied for this job as an admin assistant, I wasn't sure where I was going to go. I just needed a job, right? So I accepted it. And by the grace of God, 6 months later, I was actually offered the position of a communications officer. And that was the beginning of my journey of, entering the broadcast world or journalism world. Now, you may ask, okay, Tina, what happened to broadcast journalism? And at the point of time, I realized that I wasn't confident to go on TV. Wow. I wasn't confident to go on TV. So I thought, okay, you know what? I'll just make do with, this job, writing for, so I was writing for a newsletter, for the company newsletter. And I was also involved in events management. So, as early as I was 20, 21 years old, I was already writing papers to convince my bosses to actually get CEOs of companies to actually come to give talks on management and stuff like that, So I had a good time because, when being an MC, you have to write papers. So that was a test of your thinking ability, your language ability and stuff like that. And eventually I decided to, after spending a few years, about 3 years in the editorial team and event management, I went up to do media relations in the corporate comms headquarters. And that was my first love, right? Media relations. I didn't go to journalism, I didn't go into broadcast, but I get to work with journalists, right? So it's as good as, okay, I'm almost there. Yeah. I got, my dream. And there was time I learned how to write press releases. I learned how to write web articles, and summaries. And eventually I got a position in a university as a media relations officer and I spent 12 years in that team. And I worked with many international speakers, I got to meet Malcolm Gladwell. I managed to speak to, of course, Scott Frightman, and several other speakers from around the world, mostly in Europe and US. And I get to pitch their stories to our local papers, right? But the thing is that after spending about 12 years in media relations, writing, interviewing, getting them on papers and interviews, just like here, in podcast. Back then, we don't have podcasts that popular. It was on radio interviews, right, and then TV shows. I hit I would say like a midlife crisis. I wasn't sure whether this is what I was going to be retiring with, because there was a little part of me that have not been met, which is actually my dream of becoming a journalist. And so I had to make a big decision in my mid-40s. And I was telling myself, this is not where I want to go. It's just like clocking to work, coming back, and then I realized it's all over again the next day. And I wasn't sure where I was going. I wasn't confident that I'm going to be happy with this. So I took a very brave decision to actually quit my job, a stable job, dual income family, and I decided that I'm just going to not think about work and go on and connect with people and network with people. And LinkedIn was the first place that I decided to go because I wanted to find a job, obviously, right? Because all of us know LinkedIn is the place to find jobs. But what I found out was it was a bigger place for you to actually find new opportunities. And I connected with that's where I connected with the chief editor, the former chief editor of marketing in Asia. Is actually a community magazine. It's written by the community, for the community, the marketing community in Asia. It's based in Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia. And so I approached the chief because I was very impressed with the style of the writing, because this is like a semi-casual, and you don't really get that a lot on a magazine, because marketing public relations topic is usually quite it is a serious topic, but the tone of the writing is very casual and it's easy for you to actually understand and read. So I wrote to him and I said, I really like the style of the writing. Would you be okay if I were to contribute an article? And he said, by all means. And the best part was I offered to write in my second language, which is Malay, which is not a norm. It's not a norm because we speak and we write 80% of the time in English. And so I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And of course, I kind of regretted after I spoke to him and he said, fine. I said, oh gosh, what have I done? Because I've never written a Malay piece professionally. Because all our pictures are even to the Malay papers are in English. And so when I wrote it, I took 3 days and I sent it over to him. And he took about 12 minutes on LinkedIn, message, and he said, Tina, this is awesome. I'm going to publish it. So I would say that was the beginning, and I told him I'm going to write the second one. And then he said, yeah, sure, by all means. And then came the third one. And then I said, I am really interested to be part of your contributors team. And then he said, yeah, Tina, why not? I think you write pretty well. And I think if you enjoy doing this, by all means. So it was a few months writing with marketing in Asia. And that's where the opportunity came. And, the chief told me, Tina, would you be interested to be a columnist? And I was like, whoa, a columnist? Really? Because I think in a span of like 4 or 5 months, I was already writing about 11 articles for the magazine. It's quite consistent. So I wrote like 2 articles, almost on average 2 articles per month. And he said, Tina, would you be keen if I were to give you a column? So I was like, oh my God, yeah, obviously, And that's where I was even more inspired to write. And I was just writing every day, studying. I was like, every day I woke up, there was a new meaning to life. And I would research on articles. I would read on what people are asking, and then I would formulate them into an article. Now, and then a few months down the road, he was asking me, Tina, will you be interested to be part of the team? So I was like, what do you mean? And then he said, really, to be part of the team. And I would like to offer you to be a editor for a particular country. Basically, is to grow the readers and the contributors and to be part of and to make the MIA bigger in Asia. And so I was like, am I really up for this? But this is like a golden opportunity. So I said, what's the worst that can happen, right? So the worst that can happen, it will not be successful. It will not, take off. But until I try it, I wouldn't know. So I did. And that's where it all happened. And of course, there were some rearrangements, and of course, there are 6 of us in the team right now, and all of us got new roles because we had some changes. So now, besides gathering community from Indochina, which is the countries that I'm looking after, I also look at opinion, pieces from contributors. So whoever is interested to write for marketing and public relations matters, they can always connect with me. And of course, being on LinkedIn, I've met people. I mean, with you, like I told you before, suddenly your feed just came onto my feed. Yeah. I don't know how that happened, but I was just amazing, and I've met so many people, just so many people that is so inspiring, whom I felt that, hey, and for all you know, I might be inspiring to others as well. And that's what I want to do. And I'm really glad that for the last few months that I have people coming on board and Tina, I love your pieces. I like your writing. I thank you for all your comments. Let's connect. And I say I'm more than happy. So this is where I am today. And of course, on top of that, last year I also decided to start I run my own boutique public relations and digital media agency, and I targeted for small businesses in Singapore. So basically, I'm like the extended team for all the small businesses who might need a social media manager or public relations specialist to help them grow their business. So I managed both at the same time. I'm really happy, and thank God it's been 4 months since Teen Communications has taken off, has been launched, and I've got like 4 to 6 clients. So I'm really grateful for all these things that happened. So the thing is that the moral of the entire thing is, if you don't take a step back, stop whatever you're doing. If you don't take a step back, you really don't know what the future is going to hold. So you take a step back and decide whether you're going to go left, right, or just continue. So that's basically the whole works. Yeah.
Love it. It's so inspiring. The one thing I love from your story is like how resilient you are. The fact that you just lost your job, like you said, like it's hard for a mom to just leave their job, right, and then just rely on one income, and then try to figure out, okay, I need to go find another job now, and then for X amount of months you're just going to be networking and trying to find a new job, right? So it's that kind of that fear in your heart where you're just like, am I going to get something? When am I going to get something? I need money. And so I really respect you for that kind of bold decision that you made. And the other thing that came to my mind is like just how you just persevered. You just kept going. You kept going. You knew you had this dream, but you kept going. And the one word I kept hearing is try. You kept trying. And that's the one thing I tell all my kind of, throughout all my content, I always share with everyone, guys, go and try new things. Go and just experience things, fail, make mistakes. Don't worry so much about what's going to happen. The other thing I loved when you said was, what's the worst that's going to happen? That question, when we ask ourselves that question, it's so powerful because it's like, really, when you think about it deep down, what is the worst that can happen when you go out to try something new in your life? The worst thing is going to happen. You're going to fail. Nobody's going to punch you in the face. No one's going to hurt you. No one's going to stab you. Like, there's nothing that bad's going to happen. The worst thing is you're going to fail and make some mistakes. Who cares? Yeah. Learn from it and continue trying, because the more we try, the more we actually get to the one really big purpose that we find in our life. That's what happened to me. That's what happened for yourself. But one thing I want to ask you is, how did you where does your creativity come from? Because obviously being a writer, you have to have that kind of creative mind. Where does that come from?
I would say the people that I meet, the people, their work, I read a lot. I used to read a lot of books. I have to admit that I don't read too much now. Yeah. because everything is online. So we are so dependent on social media. We're so dependent on online ebooks. But yes, I read a lot from the people that I follow, majority on LinkedIn, and of course, my own chief, my former chief of marketing in Asia. He writes really well, and I want to become like him. Or there's this term that you always say, when I grow up, I want to become like him. But on a serious note, but he really writes really well. And of course, there are other writers that I follow on LinkedIn, and of course, the people that I've met, even for my own in my own family. My son is actually has ASD, which is he's on a spectrum, and because he's on the spectrum, I have to learn how to manage him. And of course, the best sources of information is, of course, from books and from people who actually are the specialists. And at the same time, he is my inspiration. My children are my main inspiration because, for my son, when I see him struggle, so I would have, with the experiences of having to deal with him, that's the way I get my inspiration to write. When I deal with my daughter, who's a teenager, going through a lot of, things going right now, these are the inspirations for me to write. And I try to put whatever that is on personal life. And there's a lot of things that you can actually relate, from personal to your career, to your work. And that's how my inspiration comes. And I always have this thought that whenever you write on a personal life, you can always relate it to leadership, to teamwork and stuff like that. So that's how this is. It's a very simple, way of finding inspiration to write. So it's mostly people I've met, but of course it's mostly and most more importantly, it's actually my kids. They are the main drive for me to write every day.
I love that. That's inspiring because I think for most parents it is, right. It's like you look at your kids, they're like the love of your life, and they are the ones that you just watch, right? I love watching kids and learning. I have two younger nieces, so whenever I'm with them and just observing them playing together or me playing with them, it's just that I just love learning from them. Like the next word they're gonna say, or the animal noises she now makes is when I say, "What's how does the cow? What noise does the cow make?" And she's like, "Moo," and then what's a frog? And they just I just love watching and analyzing how kids learn, and I think it's so important because that's how. One thing I always share with everybody is that we are still kids, right? We are all still someone's son or daughter. So we all have this inner child. And this is why, on my content, right, most people know me as a crazy dude because I just like being myself. I've accepted myself 100%. So because and I show that in everything I do because I no longer care what people think about me. I don't care about the judgments, the negativity. I just don't care what people think about me no more. Just because I've worked on my personal growth for such a long time now. And everybody that follows my content, they understand that this guy is just always so real, whether he's in his videos, online, podcast, wherever we see him, even in real life at an event, he's just this crazy high energy person. Yeah. And that's because it's because it just comes down to accepting yourself for who you are, not worrying about people's judgment, not worrying about not trying something because of what someone will say. And that's what most people struggle with right now. Is that fear in their mind where they're so scared to do this one thing they really want to do, but their parents, their brother, their sister, or their friends are going to laugh at them. So they're not doing that thing. That's kind of like their dream, but they're not pursuing it because they're scared. They have this fear in your heart. What would you say to someone that has fear to just take that step and try?
Is what you mentioned. Take the step. The first journey to success is taking the first step. If you have that fear of even believing in yourself to take your own step, nobody's going to help you. Nobody's going to be able to make you achieve that dream. And that, that notion about personal growth is all in your mindset. You really have to understand or appreciate your own self-worth. You have to really tell yourself, look, this is me. I understand I have my weaknesses, but are you going to let those weaknesses be the one that's leading your life, or are you going to take whatever that positivity that you have left, even if you think I only have that 10%, then so be it. Take the first step, just like what I did. I was so comfortable working for 24 years, going to work knowing that I wake up, I have a place to go. I will get money at the end of the month, a paycheck, insurance covered, medical covered. I don't really have to worry. I just have to go to work and perform. But at the end of the day, are you going to be happy? Is this what you really want? And if you're not happy, if you then don't lie to yourself, because you only live once and we don't know what's the next day is going to bring for us. Are you confident that there's going to be, the next day is going to give you what you want? But if you have been so, worried about whether I will make it, and then you will always keep on thinking. Thinking is not going to make it work. You just really have to, like I said, stop, make a decision, and go. Like what I mentioned earlier, what's the worst that can happen, right? Of course, I had a lot of questions in my head. I was like, okay, what happens if I'm not going to find a job in the next 6 months because the savings is going to deplete, right? And I'm going to depend on my husband. It's not that he can't, but the thing is that to live a comfortable life in this era, you need to have a dual income for most of the families. And so after about 4 months, when I was not able to find a job, I had to find a way to earn money. And that was how I started to find freelance work with friends, and then they would say, Tina, would you mind writing an article for me, like a ghostwriter? And I say, yeah, why not? Tina, would you mind pitching my story, to the media? Because I just launched my company. And I say, yeah, sure, why not? You see, you have to look at all these small opportunities that come your way as your new journey. And that's why I started and think, right, for all God is trying to tell me, Tina, it's enough. Corporate world is the end for you. Entrepreneurship journey is going to be your next option. And again, of course, a lot of people say entrepreneurship journey is never easy. Oh gosh, I know that. It's been a couple of months now. It's work nonstop. At least if you're in a corporate world, you can actually take a break. Holidays means holidays. But when you're an entrepreneur, you actually literally work. And as things like that, putting up content, meeting clients, answering questions, crisis management with clients, last minute, even at 12 midnight, they might message you. But at the end of the day, if you were to ask me, Tina, are you happier now? There's no time. Basically, it's like, what time is work? Work is almost, almost every hour, right? Yeah. But if you ask me whether, Tina, are you happy now compared to 24 years ago? Well, I would say that I was happy for the last 24 years. But I'm happy that I made this decision to stop and take the next step. And this is my new chapter in life. If I hadn't decided to stop, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to meet, my dream of being a writer, being a journalist, of working in a magazine. I wouldn't be able to. So the whole idea and my advice is know your self-worth. Fear is always there, but until you actually take the first step, you will never know. So do it.
I love that. So inspiring. Guys, you listen to her wisdom. It's giving me goosebumps. It's just so like refreshing and just so amazing listening to your words, because like everything you're sharing is purely from passion, from your own experience. Like you've been through it, you've gone through the hardships, you've gone through challenges. And I always tell people, like, we all have ups and downs in life. So if you're in a bad place right now, that's just going to be temporary. Don't try to overthink it so much, but instead try to put more of that positive energy that you said, even if it's 5 or 10%, try to put that little bit of energy that you still have left and that hope into just trying that next thing or just doing something that just makes you really happy. Because the end goal, guys, is the fact that we have to do something in life that makes us happy, and I always tell people, whether it makes you money or not, at the beginning it's not going to make you money, because it's going to be just a passion. It's going to be something like a hobby. It's going to be something you just like doing. But as long as it makes you happy and you like content within your heart, then eventually you will figure it out. You will figure out a way to earn from that. And this is why it's so important for us all to just continue going on like our journey and just try new things and take action. Like, I shared a whole TEDx talk about just consistently taking action in your life to find your true purpose. Because I believe in my journey, I just consistently, like every day, didn't stop. I've been putting out content for the past 5 or 6 years non-stop. Videos, posts, quotes, whatever, just experience of my life. And then I was part of the network marketing company for 5 years, the Asian company where I learned so much. I got to travel to Malaysia and I got to go to Dubai, and it was such a refreshing opportunity for me to learn more about life at such a young age. And I was so grateful because I was like, I got to meet amazing people from all over the world. And I got to experience new cultures, right? Because I got to go to Dubai and Malaysia, and I was like, wow, their culture is so different. Like, I wish London was more like this, more friendly. Because it's not really like, it doesn't have that vibe in London. Like, yes, it's amazing because it's all multicultural and people are amazing from different backgrounds. But those countries have this different type of energy where it's like, there's so much more love for everybody. There's so much more kindness. It's so open and like, respected, I say, like out in the world when you're just out and about shopping and just seeing life. So yeah, no, I love what you shared, and all the kind of experiences that you've been through. On like, just to kind of end before I ask you the last 4 questions, one thing I want to kind of ask you to touch on a little bit is, what would you say to that person right now listening who does tend to overthink? They do overthink life a little too much, and they do have this purpose or this passion or this hobby that they really want to do. What advice would you give that person to stop overthinking?
I would say start small. Start small. Like what I've done, what I did was I approached the chief editor of the magazine and I said, can I just offer the first article, right? And start small. Believe in what you do best. Really ask yourself, if let's say you are a social media specialist and you want to become a social media specialist, right? And you are at this end where you might not be able to get a job. So what can you do? Do that what Sadiq does. Put out good content, relevant content on all these platforms. Get connected with people. Most importantly is to get connected with people. Engage with them. Connection, just not just adding them, but also to engage with them, learn from them. But the most important is to take that first step, like I've always mentioned in the entire podcast, is take the first step, believe in yourself, know your self-worth, and do it. Because if you don't do it, you will never be able to do it. So just do it, seriously. Just like what Nike did, just do it.
Just do it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The best punchline. Yeah, and I love it. It's just, and it comes back to very much what I always share with them, which is take action. Just do it.
Exactly.
Like, just take the action and implement those things that you learn.
Yeah. And the thing is, no matter what, like what you always mention, Sadiq, no matter what people say about you, they might just poison your mind and say, you know what, it's not going to work. A lot of people are also doing that. What difference are you going to make? There's thousands of people doing what you're doing. What makes you so sure that the editor is going to give you a shot? Seriously, shut them out of your mind. Really. I mean, even if it means your brother, even if it means your sister, your mom, your dad, I'm not telling them to not be disrespectful, to them. You should still listen to them. But at the end of the day, it's your life. And if you think this is something positive and you want to lead a positive life, you have to make the first step. So be brave, no matter what people say, be brave and go for it. It's just same thing as I've gone through in my entire life. Who would have thought that I would end up being a writer? Who would have thought that I would end up being my own boss? Nobody. Even for my dad, when Sadiq, I took 2 months, before I told my dad, Papa, now I'm no longer working. I just started my business. He went on a long pause. And this was his first sentence. And he said, take every job, even if it means $10, which was his blessing. Basically, he's telling me, I'm blessing you. I know you've always been working. I know money is going to be there. But if it's something that you want to do, I'm giving you my blessings. And his advice is, no matter how small the job is, take it, because you need the clientele. You need to build your reputation. You need to build, your portfolio. So no job is ever too small, and take it. And that was it. So I had a fear of telling my dad because he always asked, why have you not been working? What have you been applying, And all I said, yes, Dad, yes. But after 2 months after the launch, and after I got my first client, I told him, okay, Dad, the reason why I've not been working is this. I think he went for a long pause and eventually he gave me his blessings, which was the best. So, yeah.
I love it. So it's good to have that support around you, right? Because I know how it felt when I had negativity as well. Like when I started my speaking journey, or just actually when I started the network marketing business over 7 years ago now, I think 6 or 7 years. Like my parents were the most negative people. My family were the most negative people. They're the ones that they saw me go out every day to events or every week, and just every day I was meeting people, for coffee and stuff. And they're like, "Why are you always out? You never used to go out. You used to always play games at home, and now you always out. Who are you going to see? Or what are you doing? Are you being dodgy?" Like, they start having doubts. They thought their son is getting messed up now. Like, why is he always going out? For me, it was like I knew what I'm doing. Like, and my end goal, anyways, in life is to make them happy. So I'd rather not say anything and just be quiet and silent for a few years and just let them, whatever negativity, just keep talking and I ignore it. I don't disrespect them, but I ignore them. Like I ignore what they're saying because it's not good. It's not positive. Yeah. It's not pumping me up to go and like put more energy into what I'm doing. It's trying to pull me down. And even though they're my parents and I love them, I won't let them pull me down until I did that TEDx and then I showed them the video and I look what your son did. Like, do you know how hard it is for someone to go and get a TEDx talk in life? It's one of the hardest things to get. And I was like, I did one. And then they saw it. Then they were like, just recently when they saw that a month ago, they were so happy. They're like, oh my God, how did you do this? And then my dad was like, because my parents know I didn't go to university, but I still, worked in a massive bank, right? But they still, like when they saw that video, they're like, he didn't go to university, but he gave a TEDx talk in a university. Like he will have spoke to a group of people in university. For me, that was the best kind of feeling after seeing finally like they approve of what I'm doing and they know it's something good. So I love that. I love this journey. I love your story. The one thing now at the end of the show, Tina, is something called the final four, where I ask 4 questions and it's literally the first sentence that comes to your mind.
Okay, I'll try.
All right, cool. Yeah. Don't worry about it. They're not too hard. They're just normal questions. So the first one I have for you is in one sentence, what comes to your mind when you hear the word storytelling?
Oh gosh. Telling people. Oh gosh, this is a bit hard. Let me see. Storytelling is about.
For you. You do storytelling all the time. You're writing, no?
I guess storytelling is all about what you feel, what you see, and how you want to inspire people of the things that you saw, and hopefully make a difference in whatever that they're going through in their lives. So that is storytelling to me, to inspire people, to motivate them, and to get them to take action. Yeah, that's storytelling for me. Yeah.
Love it. See, I knew it's inside me. Sometimes you need that little kind of nudge, right?
Yeah.
That was a specific one for you because I knew you come from that writing background. So I thought, let me ask about storytelling. What's the first thing that comes to her mind? Because I know how important storytelling is in writing and speaking too. Okay, so the second question is one that I always get my listeners to go and take action on straight away. That is, which one video or movie have you ever seen in your life that has like a really positive effect that you'd recommend them to go and watch?
I would say, if I remember the title correct, it's by Clash of the Titans by Denzel Washington. Mm-hmm. I think it was about a group of, I think he was a coach for a high school football team who was basically hopeless, but he actually managed to turn all of them around into one of the best state football team. And that movie was actually really inspiring because I was at the stage where I was about to make a decision whether to leave my editorial work and to do media relations. And I was really inspired by Denzel Washington because he's my favorite actor anyways, and his quotes are just so inspiring. But in that movie, it talks about good leadership, talks about a lot of grit, determination. And if you don't take the first step to changing your life, then you will not, get a chance. But the most important thing is you also need a mentor, a really great leader, a very a good mentor who believes in you. And I had a really good mentor back then. She was my first supervisor. When I told her that I wanted to move on to, doing media relations, and she said, Tina, do it. Even though I'm going to lose one of the best, staff, but I want the best for you. So do it. And that's why I moved on to the next job. And until today, she's always been my mentor. And, even though I'm in business, sometimes I talk to her. So a mentor is important, but at the same time, it also takes you yourself makes a difference in making the entire equation work positively. So yeah, that was one of the best movies that I've ever had.
Nice, amazing, cool, love it. And I agree with you actually. I think having mentors or role models and people that we look up to in life, whether online or offline, is so important for us to just learn from and see their experience and then take action in our own life. Take the best out of them and implement it in our own unique way. That's
Indeed.
kind of like how I see it. So yeah, love that. Okay, the next one is now the similar question, but which one book would you now recommend everyone to go and read? Because I know you probably have read hundreds of them, but if you were to choose just one top one book that everyone should read, it will somehow help their mindset, it will help their creativity. Which one would you recommend?
Okay, I'm not really a fan of self-help books.
Yeah,
I know, but I'm a fan of Sidney Sheldon books. Ever since I was a teenager, I started reading his books when I was about 17, and his books all talks about women who stories of inspiration for women. And in Sidney Sheldon books, to be honest, I think there's a lot of titles. I think I've read all, but and I think people, especially girls and women who wants to break out of their shell, read Sidney Sheldon books. These are really inspiring stories. I have to admit that some of them can be a bit, how should I say this, really sad, and can affect you pretty bad. But at the end of the day, there's always a good ending towards the entire story. And I would recommend Sidney Sheldon books. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. No, it's fine. It's completely. There's no specific type of book. It just has to be something that you've read in your life that has inspired you. He's given you some kind of a thought process that has changed.
Yeah. Definitely Sidney Sheldon books. I've read it all. That's the reason why I can remember all the titles, because I will always go to the secondhand bookstore and pay for $3 for about a week, and then I would finish it in 2 days on the bus to work. Yeah, and it's really inspiring because it talks about women and their struggles and how they actually come out of it and to become really good and really well in their careers and life as well. So yeah, Sidney Sheldon books.
Nice, awesome, guys. Make sure you go check that out. Okay, so the last question now gets a little bit more deeper, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on this.
Oh gosh!
If you can spend a few hours to learn from someone's wisdom, whether they're dead or alive, who would that one person be and why?
Well, to be honest with you, my best teacher, I know how cliche this might sound, my best teacher is actually my late mom. Now, why do I say that? And I don't think she's ever going to be irreplaceable. I cannot replace her forever, because besides being a mom, she was my first teacher. She was my first mentor. And it was only when I was about 80 years old that I realized that she was illiterate. But she made me read in front of the mirror every single day to her, because she wanted me to be able to spell and read. And she was working as a domestic helper for expatriates. And she worked really hard, but she has never felt that there was any disgrace of being a helper. And she will always tell me, if you work really hard, pay attention, do your prayers, things will go your way. Of course, if things do not go your way, there are reasons why. You must always understand, you must always accept there are better options. God will always tell you there are other options. There's a reason why these things might not work, even if you feel that's the best, I wish that she's still here because she passed on 4 or 5 years ago. And even until up to the time when she was still sick, I go to her to talk about life, to talk about work, even though she might not really understand the job of a media relations officer, right? But she will always tell me what I should do as a teammate, as a subordinate, as a mentor to into my interns. She's basically teaching me about life, about attitudes. Because at the end of the day, all you need to have is attitude. Attitude will make you go far, but attitude is what is going to make you wholesome as a person. So I would say, mom is the person that has been the most instrumental in my life, and she'll always be. And I hope that my son and my daughter will eventually say that if you ask them 20 years later. Yeah.
I'm sure they will. I'm pretty sure they will. They have a super inspiring mom that's hustling, that's living her dream. And I'm sure like they 100%, they can see your life, they can see you in the calls, they see you working really hard, and they'll be like, we remember when mum was on the laptop all the time, working hard, and we want to be like her. We want to have a good life and do something we enjoy as well. So no, I think yeah, amazing. Keep up the amazing work, because your kids are gonna really be inspired by what you're doing right now.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, especially for my son, because it's going to be a long journey for him. Because he's, like I said, he's on a spectrum, and so his challenges might be a bit more difficult, and his journey is going to be more. I would say, to put it on a positive mindset, a bit more interesting as compared to his sister. Because he will have more challenges. He will face a lot more things as compared to his sister. But I want to have him live with a life that is full, and he's really a happy boy. He's very positive, and that helps. And I hope that by instilling this attitudes in him, the attributes of life, go with it, and no amount of spectrum is going to stop you from achieving what you have.
No. And shall I tell you something, Tina? If you look at the world right now and you look at majority of the most successful people in the world, guess what? Someone like Richard Branson, dyslexic, can't read or write, still a billionaire. Look at some other people. I mean, I can. There's so many names that can pop into my mind now, but there's so many people in the world that have been bedridden, and they're like one of the most wisest, smartest people in the world who have changed the world. So I would say don't look at it in a negative way, but see the positive side of how he is, because he may end up being one of the next Mark Zuckerbergs of the world. He may find a way to find a solution to many people's problems, and you might not know it now, but those are the people I look at as the most unique. And yes, they go for the most challenges, but they become the most resilient. Hence why it leads them to somewhere. Like one day they also have that question I ask myself: who gives a crap what people think? I don't care if I'm like this. I'm still going to help people and change the world.
Yeah. That's the way. That's the spirit. Absolutely.
Definitely. I love it. Tina, thank you so much for everything you've shared on the show. I'm super grateful for your time and for all your wisdom. What's the best way all the listeners can go and connect with you, learn about you, ask you questions? Which platforms do you live on the most?
I'm on LinkedIn. So just find my name, Kartina Rosli, on LinkedIn. I have my articles on marketing in Asia as well. So it's just marketinginasia.com. I have a channel there. If you look at my name, I have all my articles there. But I'm also on the Medium and Thrive Global. So just search for my name here and there. Just connect with me. I'll be happy to meet and connect with a lot of people from around the world. And I want to inspire as much as I want, as much as I can. And most importantly, before I go, is at the end of the day, after what you've gone through, just remember to pay it forward. Always pay it forward. It doesn't have to be in money, but it can always be in like talking to somebody, like what you have done, Sari, or whatever you're doing every day, speaking to people, giving them inspiration, changing their mindset. So I think that's important. And pay it forward. You never know what you're gonna get in return, but trust God, trust that whatever that you give, believe that it will always be a chain reaction. If it's not going to happen to you in your lifetime, it will happen in your children's lifetime. So that is what living is going to be worth for. Yeah. So that's my closing. Thank you for having me here as well.
No, you're welcome. I'm humbled to have had this conversation with you. But thank you for all the wisdom you shared, and I'm looking forward to collaborate on a lot more things with you in the future.
Special. Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to working with you again.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Yeah, I'll have you back on in a few months back again, for sure. 100%. It'll be super cool to
Great.
have
Thank you.
a different type of angle of the conversation.
Sure.
But yeah,
I'm
keep doing
looking
what you're
forward to that.
doing. Keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing, and keep inspiring people. Keep helping people. Keep writing, and yeah. Once again, thank you for being on my show.
Thank you, Sadiq. Thank you.
No worries. All right, take care of yourself. Bye.
Bye.
If you're still there, I just want to say a massive thank you for your attention and your time. It really means a lot to me. Please do me one favor and subscribe to this podcast, share it with your friends, and leave a rating on whichever platform you're listening to this. It would honestly mean the world to me. Thank you so much once again. I hope that this episode brought value and inspiration into your life, and I'll see you guys next week.